अस्तु द्विपदे षञ्चतुष्पदे। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम्। पुरुष एवेदगं सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यम् उतामृतत्वस्येषानः यदन्नेनातिरोहति। एतावानस्य महिमाम् अतो ज्यायाग्निश्च पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वाभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवे। त्रिपादोर्ध्व उदैत्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत्। शासनानशने अभि तस्माद्विराडजायत। विराजो अधिपुरुषः स जातो अत्यरिच्यत। पश्चाद्भूमिमथो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत। वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्म इद्मः शरद्धवेर्। सप्तास्यासन् परिधयः त्रिसप्तसमिधः कृताः। देवा यद्यज्ञन्तन्वानाः अबध्नन् पुरुषं पशुम्। तैयज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः। तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्या ऋषयश्च ये। तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः संभृतं पृषदाज्यम्। पशुग्स्ताग्श्चक्रे वायव्यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्च ये। तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः ऋचः सामानि जज्ञिरे। छन्दागुंसि जज्ञिरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत। तस्मादश्वा अजायन्त ये केचोभयादतः। गावोह जज्ञिरे तस्मात् तस्माज्जाता अजावयः। यत्पुरुषं व्यदधु कतिधा व्यकल्पयन्। मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहु कावूरुपादावुच्यते। ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यकृतः ऊरू तदस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागुं शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षुः सूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणाद्वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षम् शीर्ष्णोद्यौः समवर्तत पद्भ्यां भूमिर्दिशश्रोत्रात् तथा लोकागुम् अकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वाभिवदन् यदास्ते धाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार शक्रः प्रविद्वान् प्रदिशश्च तस्र तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था अयनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् ते हनाकं महिमानः सचन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः अद्भ्यः सम्भूतः पृथिव्यैरसाच्च विश्वकर्मणः समवर्तताधि तस्य त्वष्टा विदधद्रूपमेति तत्पुरुषस्य विश्वमाजानमग्रे वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते यनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते तस्य धीराः परिजानन्ति योनिम् मरीचीणां पदमिच्छन्ति वेधसः यो देवेभ्य आतपति यो देवानां पुरोहितः पूर्वो यो देवेभ्यो जातः नमो रुचाय ब्राह्मये रुचं ब्राह्मन् जनयन्त देवा अग्रे तदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवं ब्राह्मणो विद्यात् तस्य देवा असन्वशे ह्रीश्च ते लक्ष्मीश्च पत्न्यौ अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्राणि रूपम् अश्विनौ व्यात्तम् इष्टं मनिषाणाम् अमुं मनिषाणाम् सर्वं मणिषाणं तच्छंयोरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजम् शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शञ्चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ।
Namaskar, Guten Tag, Bonjour, Hola, Bon dia. Hearty welcome back to our Satsang on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are very happy to establish contact with you this way after a long time. The corona pandemic, the war in our neighborhood, etc., can be the reason, but the main compulsion is the construction of a brand new ashram in Berlin, you know. Many thanks for your time and participation. It will take time for us and for you also to get back to the rhythm. Hope you are all doing well. Our last meeting was on 8th December 2021 on this holy book. I will chant the opening prayer. Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavihiridhitam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Janaha. O God, your nectarine words and divine life on earth are propagated and adored by the great ones. These are like blessings on us for attaining immortality and for attaining immortality in this life. Excuse me. We will be reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The date of the events that we are going to read will be covering the conversations that occurred on April 8, 1883. This will be our online class number 55 on this holy book. We will continue this way. I will read from the book. Manilal, a devotee, was telling Sri Ramakrishna that he discussed spiritual matters with a saint named Bhaskarananda. You know, Bhaskarananda was a monk known for his saintly attainments in spiritual life. He used to live in Varanasi but travelled extensively in India. Sri Ramakrishna asked Manilal, does he live in a house? He means Bhaskarananda. Manilal, yes sir, he lives with a devotee, Sri Ramakrishna. How old is he now? Manilal, about 55. Sri Ramakrishna, did you talk about anything else? Manilal. I asked him how to cultivate bhakti. He answered, chant the name of God, repeat the name of Rama, Sri Ramakrishna. That is very good. The worship was over in the temples and the bells rang for the food offerings in the shrines. As it was a summer noon, the sun was very hot. The flood tide began in the Ganges and a breeze came up from the south. Sri Ramakrishna was resting in his room after his meal. The people of Basirhat, Rakhal's birthplace, had been suffering from a severe drought during the summer months. Sri Ramakrishna to Manilal. Rakhal says that the people in his native village have been suffering seriously from a scarcity of water. Why don't you build a reservoir there? That will do the people good. Smiling, Sri Ramakrishna said, you have so much money. What will you do with all your wealth? But they say that telis are very calculating. The word teli in Bengali means the people who trade on oil. They are called teli. All laugh. Manilal was truly a calculating man, though he suffered no lack of money. In later years, he set up an endowment of 25,000 rupees for the maintenance of poor students. Manilal made no answer to these words of Sri Ramakrishna about his trade characteristics. Later on, in the course of conversation, he remarked casually, Sir, you refer to a reservoir. Well, you might as well have confined yourself to that suggestion. Why allude to the oilman trade and all that? Some of the devotees smiled to themselves. Sri Ramakrishna laughed. Yes, there is a wonderful hint about what happens when we engage ourselves in something, heart and soul. Manilal understood Sri Ramakrishna's hint. So he reacted this way, somewhat with a tone of complaint. He said, Sir, you refer to a reservoir, that would be all right. But why allude to the oilman's trade and all that? Why allude to my profession? It may not be out of place to mention that our works that we do regularly would leave an impression on our mind. It is a kind of a regular practice which we do willfully, lovingly, or in a sense of duty. That is how deep rooted impressions are created. They are called samskaras. And these happen in all matters of our regular practices. Sri Ma Sarada Devi used to do japa between the gaps even when she would be cooking. She did not do this just for a day, she did it daily because that was her habit. Or we may say that that was one of the many practices she used to do which support the foundation of her spiritual life. Abhyasa is practice. That is what the scriptures all over the world have been teaching us, recommending all the spiritual seekers to follow. Sri Krishna tells in the Gita famously those two words, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Even in the Yoga Sutras also we find these two words. Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha. So, Sri Ramakrishna is hinting at this practice or Abhyasa. Even for maintaining our physical health, we need regular practice of working out. We have regular practice of daily chores, daily good habits and bad habits. We go on practicing daily good habits and bad habits. We do many things daily, repeat them endless times. In his commentary to the Yoga Sutras, Bhagavan Vyasa says, that is aphorism number 12 of the first chapter. He says that Chitta Nadi Nama Ubhayato Vahini Vahati Kalyanaya Vahati Cha Papaya Vahati Papaya Cha. The meaning is the mind stream flows in two different directions, actually two opposite directions. One flows to one's welfare in respect of spiritual emancipation, and the other to one's stagnation. Stagnation within a vicious circle of repeated birth and death. The first thorough psychologist, as we know, as he was, Vyasa, identified the root causes of our liberation and bondage this way. We should do well to know that both the diverging streams flow to their ends through different stages. They are not to be understood as flowing in straight lines. They are flowing in stages. That means our achievements or failures do not happen at once or at the end, but in and through the whole process. The whole process ingrains the success or failure in every part of it. To be sure, even as the process of liberation starts liberating us step by step from the very beginning, even so is the process of our bondage. It binds us through our practices step by step. Let me share with you a very practical example. There is a senior devotee who lives in Berlin. He is about 91. He came to visit this new ashrama of ours in Berlin when the brick and concrete construction was done. He could see the whole ground floor because that was easily approachable by him. He walked through the whole ground floor. I requested him to see the cellar, the underground. He said that he won't be able to climb up or down the stairs. So we left it there. Some months later, he again came when there was much progress in outside and inside constructions. This time he climbed up to the top of the second floor and also went down to the cellar. Very easily, almost effortlessly. It made me curious. I asked him how he could do it now. And in the meantime, he has also grown older by 6 or 7 months. He said that these months he has been practicing going up to his apartment not by lift but by climbing the stairs, about 56 of the steps. He did it regularly. Now we can imagine that initially it was really difficult for him to do it. But his regular practice brought him the success. There are so many such examples that all of us have seen in our life. From these inventions of the great Patanjali, we understand that even our obsessive habits, our bad habits for that matter, are the outcome of our practices, our own practices that we have repeated regularly, diligently and religiously. And we have grown permanent obsession about any practice this way, step by step. Someone said, get busy living or get busy dying. That is the idea here. The mind stream flows in two divergent directions. Get busy living or get busy getting stagnated. Similarly, there is a saying, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Alas, if only we could do it right. Let us go back to what Vyasa said. Chitta nadi nama ubhayato vahini vahati kalyanaya vahati papaya cha. The mind stream flows in two opposite directions. One to one's welfare, kalyanaya, and the other to one's stagnation, papaya. I have preferred translating papa as stagnation in this context. As you have heard many times, in Hindu tradition, the word papa is not sin. It is one of the many important Sanskrit words, the most common translations of which are way off the mark. Sin is a loaded word and is specific to Abrahamic religions. But the word papa in Sanskrit is derived from the root verb pach, meaning to rot or decay or decompose. It is like stagnated water in a cesspool. So the meaning of papa in this sentence, vahati papaya, one flow leads to papa or stagnation. That means it will keep you going on and on through miseries, life after life. Continuing, Vyasa has said, and which is more important, Yatu kaivalya pragbhara viveka vishaya nimna. That is, no, Yatu kaivalya pragbhara viveka vishaya nimna sa kalyana vaha. That means one of the two streams or flows leads us to our welfare, which has targeted spiritual liberation, kaivalya pragbhara, and is being aided by the knowledge of differentiation or discernment, viveka vishaya nimna. Let me repeat it. This is very important for us. The stream that leads to our ultimate good, kalyanaya, has been aided by the power of differentiation. Viveka, because it has our spiritual liberation as its goal, or Kaivalya, spiritual liberation, Pragbhara as the ultimate goal or aspiration. Similarly, the stream that leads unto evil, Papaya or bondage, has been aided by indiscriminate and unwise following of the path that keeps us going through repeated births and deaths. This reminds me of what Seneca has said, not how long, but how well you have lived is the main thing. How well you have lived. Sri Krishna has also analyzed this word well in his famous revelation. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, etc. And at the end of that verse he says, Sada tad bhava bhavitam. He says, with whatever tendency you would end this life of yours, that tendency continues in the next birth. It is same with the practice of our habits. With whatever tendency we end today, this same tendency will help us to continue with the same tendency tomorrow. And that goes on increasing, means creating more and more impressions, deeper impressions on our mind. So wherever you leave, next day or next time you begin from there. So when we are dying, we cannot depart with any other tendency than what we have always practiced and what we have made our own. So sada tad bhava bhavitam, always you practice that type of tendency, that type of idea. So therefore when we are dying, at that moment we will be thinking of that, whatever we have practiced very well and thoroughly. Sri Krishna connects the wellness to the ultimate result of our living. How well we live. It has to be connected with the ultimate result of our living. How well we have lived will be proved by what end we have arrived at, achieved. If the end result of our living is the end of our material or biological body only, then that cannot be a goal or a result of some endeavor. You don't have to do anything about this. That is an end which need not be strived for. That comes anyway, whether we ask for it or not, want it or not, strive for it or not. Actually, there is no need to strive for that. And if we live well, that will help us that way, or otherwise it may lead us to the opposite direction towards the world. Our regular practices leave a mark on our mind, as we have seen, most of the time without our knowing how it works. That is why Sri Sri Thakur is alerting Manilal about it. The habit of thinking in terms of profit, because he was a tradesman, would leave a mark on our mind. The habit of thinking in terms of profit. That makes us to feel more comfortable with the trade and slowly love it. We get more and more drawn towards the world. Samsara pragbhara. Samsara pragbhara means the unwise pursuit of material goals that makes our mind bhara, heavier or more and more inclined, prag, towards samsara, bondage. If we do not do any spiritual practices to counter this impression or tendency, then we are stuck in the world. That is why Sri Sri Thakur has said that one has to bring God at the center of one's life and family. That would reorient our businesses, our profits. Then these will not be hindrances to our spiritual growth. The fortunate Manilal agreed to spend money in digging a pond for the welfare of people. But he sweetly complained, Teli feli bola kano? He said to Sri Sri Thakur, you could have simply said to me, do this. Why do you mention my profession, my trade? This fact exposes another wonderful truth about how a down-to-earth and sweet relationship it was between Sri Ramakrishna and his devotees. They were common people living in the world and performing their duties. All who were present there in Sri Sri Thakur's room enjoyed this conversation and smiled. The Gospel mentions some of the devotees smiled to themselves. And what did Sri Ramakrishna do? It is written, Sri Ramakrishna laughed. This shows how humanly an incarnation of God should be. Swami Vivekananda called Sri Ramakrishna by a new epithet, Nara, Deva. This is a word which is packed with spiritual, practical and philosophical meanings. We know Nara means human and Deva means God. The personality of Sri Ramakrishna is a wonderful combination and representation of both the excellences, human excellences and divine excellences. The human qualities of Sri Ramakrishna are unsurpassable, incomparable, because they have reached their highest, the peak. These are blended with the divine manifestation in him. In whom? In Sri Ramakrishna. Hence he is addressed as Nara Deva. Nara means human and Deva means divine. The combination of these two apparently contradictory characteristics. I would give a little clarification about this. Swami Vivekananda did not use the word Deva as just God with small g. Deva can mean any divine personality. Sri Krishna differentiated between God with small g and with capital G. He called gods with small g as Anya Devata, the other gods. The gods who have been allotted some works by the Godhead with capital G. Like Varuna is the god of rains, here God is small g. Agni is the god of fire, here God is small g, etc. Anya Devata can also mean demigods, smaller with lesser responsibilities, but they are divinities. In this epithet Naradeva, the word Deva means Godhead. So G is capital here, means God. Because an incarnation is an incarnation of the Godhead. We will read from the Gospel further. The next topic that Sri Ramakrishna will be discussing is the very common topic of Bhakti or divine love. He tried to explain various traits of this path to God realization. Sri Ramakrishna is not speaking from his information from book learning. He has practiced these various ways and experienced God or God's different aspects at the end of his journeys. We have to remember that he took many such journeys through many different approaches. He realized God in his both immanent and transcendent aspects, in both his formless and with form aspects, in both God's qualified and unqualified aspects, in his finite and infinite aspects, through various relationships with God as father or mother or friend or the servant and many more such aspects of God. Hence, Sri Ramakrishna's conversations with devotees about divine love are a treasure of authentic information. I will mostly read from the book, adding some observations here and there. The Gospel continues. Presently, a few elderly members of the Brahmo Samaj arrived. The room was full of devotees. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on his bed, facing the north. He kept smiling and talked to the Brahmo devotees in a joyous mood. Sri Ramakrishna, you talk glibly about Prema. But is it such a commonplace thing? There are two characteristics of Prema. First, it makes one forget the world. So intense is one's love of God that one becomes unconscious of outer things. Chaitanya had this ecstatic love. He took a forest for the sacred grove of Vrindavan and the ocean for the dark waters of Yamuna. Second, one has no feeling of mineness toward the body, which is so dear to man. One wholly gets rid of feeling that the body is the soul. Let us study it properly. How we should reflect on these statements of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Sri Thakur told us that there are two characteristics of Prema. That means one Prema is made of two qualities, two characteristics. The one characteristic or quality is that it makes one forget the world. And the other is one is able to know that the body is separate from the soul. So one characteristic will make us forget the world. And another characteristic is that we will understand that the body is separate from the soul. So we have three things here: the world, the body and the soul. And we have found them separate here. What we understand from this is that when in the path of practicing divine love, one is able to separate oneself or the self from the body and the world, then that love of God is called Prema. So what is Prema here? When we are loving God, being oblivious of our body and also of the world. Another thing we learn from Sri Sri Thakur's illustration, that is, we may forget the world, but that does not make the world disappear. Sri Chaitanya forgot the world because he saw it as a place for the Leela or divine play of Sri Krishna. It is said in the Vaishnava scriptures that yatra yatra netra pade tatra Krishna sphure. Wherever the eyes focus, there they see the manifestations of Sri Krishna. On whatever object in this world, you focus your eyes, you will see the manifestation of Sri Krishna in that object. So the world does not disappear, it changes its definitions. Sri Sri Thakur himself had a plenary or complete vision of consciousness. The Leela Prasanga, the biography of Sri Ramakrishna, says, in that realization, he saw that the puja vessels were made of consciousness. Chaitanya jore roeche, he said. They were permeated by consciousness in and through and through. Once Swami Vivekananda, then young Naren, made fun of such non-dual experiences, saying, does it mean that the pot is Brahman, the vessels are Brahman, Ghatita Brahma, Bhatita Brahma, like that he made fun of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings in front of him. And Sri Ramakrishna touched him. Then Swami Vivekananda had that plenary vision of consciousness. He even banged his own head against the steel railing at the pool near his home, just to check if it feels hard. Because he was seeing these railings as made of seamless consciousness, unending consciousness. So the world remains, but it changes its definitions. Now we will go back to the Gospel. Sri Sri Thakur continued. He says, there are certain signs of God realization. The man in whom longing for God manifests its glories is not far from attaining Him. What are the glories of that longing? They are discernment, dispassion, compassion for living beings, serving holy men, loving their company, chanting the name and glories of God, telling the truth, and the like. When you see these signs of longing in an aspirant, you can rightly say that for him the vision of God is not far to seek. What Sri Sri Thakur says here, he says, there are sure signs to know if someone has realized God, or even how much someone has advanced in spiritual path. The Gita says, Yat yat acharati shreshthas tatta deve taro janaha. Chayat pramanam kurute lokastadana vartate, like that. The spiritual ways which are practically lived by the great ones, when they live in this world, tat tad eva itaro janaha, those have to be practiced by common people, itaro jana, other people. We have read in the Mahabharata, the pious King Yudhishthira was asked this question, what is the way? The Mahabharata narrates, Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Those are called ways which are travelled by the great ones. That means the signs of our or signals of our spiritual attainments are detectable by others. We may not know the inside of the realized ones, But we can see a few things, 3 things at least. That's what Thakur is alluding to. Number 1, how that person conducts his or her activities. That is, whether that person is living for selfish purposes or not. Number 2, how God's grace descends on him or her. And number 3, how God protects him or her from the hands of wrongdoers. If we are following God's ways sincerely, we are sure to experience these 3 things. What are these 3 things? Let me repeat once again. Our conduct will reflect godly signs and in and through our life. Whatever we do, that will reflect those godly qualities in and through us. We will experience the grace of God on us, being poured on us. And number 3, and this is actually very important, God will protect us in all circumstances, all circumstances. The truth in God's protective power is not debatable, cannot be overemphasized. We pray for those who stand in God's ways. This is called Parasamvedya Lakshana. The signs that are reflected in our conduct by which others can guess about our spiritual progress. So these are indications in and through our activities or behavior. People can understand that we are following spiritual path. Sri Chaitanya Deva says, Jahare dekhile mukhe aise Krishna naam. So you will know that person to be a devotee of God because the sight of that person arouses or brings about godly feelings in you. Not ungodly feelings, but godly feelings in you. Not worldly feelings, but otherworldly feelings. Not physical feelings, but spiritual feelings. Then you know that that person is following spiritual path and you are in search of spiritual life. It proves the intention for which you are coming to a spiritual person. The second and third signs are called Swasamvedya Lakshana. The feelings or understandings that we will ourselves have in the form of His grace and His protection. I will read from the Gospel. Thakur continues to give some examples, very wonderful. It is here. The state of a servant's house will tell you unmistakably whether his master has decided to visit it. First, the rubbish and jungle around the house are cleared up. Second, the soot and dirt are removed from inside the rooms. Third, the courtyard, floors and other places are swept clean. Finally, the master himself sends various things to the house, such as a carpet, a hubble bubble for smoking, a pipe smoking, and the like. When you see these things arriving, you conclude that Sri Ramakrishna that God will very soon come there. Now, let me go back to these points. 3 things Thakur has said. Number 1, that one has to clean the house and courtyards, etc. of the rubbish and jungle around, all the rubbish that has have gathered outside. And second, to clean the soot and dirt, whatever is there inside the mind. Physical purification, mental purification. And the third, there is the idea of God's grace. The Master himself sends various things to the house. And this is how the godly qualities manifest in the devotee. So the devotee has to first clean himself physically. Means outside cleanliness is necessary. What is the outside cleanliness referred to here? Our connections with the world, which are the very means of our bondage in this world, very means of our stagnation, those connections have to be severed, cut asunder. That is the physical cleanliness. We have to withdraw ourselves from the world. That is why Thakur has referred to this idea while he said many times in the Gospel that one has to practice spiritual sadhana outside the reach of people, meaning in a secluded corner, he has said. Kone means in a secluded corner. Bone means in the forest. Means you have to detach yourself from the connections which we have established with the world. That is the idea here. So outside purification, cleanliness is necessary. Then inside cleansing. What is that? All the shoots, cobwebs that have gathered inside our mind. They have been created because of our transactions with the outside world. The way we transacted with the outside world. The stream, the current, the river current, the flow that we have chosen. Ubhayata Vahini, Chitta Nama Nadi. The mind river flows in two directions. It can go out of the body and get mixed up with the world and be cause for our stagnation or bondage. It can also get back into itself and further inside. And that will bring our kalyana, eternal good. So therefore, outside cleaning and inside cleaning. The more and more we dwell with the mind, the more we discover the shoots, the impurities that are lodged there. We can work on that. So this is the second thing, that the inside of the house has to be cleaned. Because the Master wants to visit our house. The house is the body, the person of the devotee. God wants to come. I want God to come here, to reside in my heart. Someone said that I would love to think that God resides in my heart. That is fine. But then we have to make it pure, clean, so that God can come in. Otherwise, it will be a den of devils. So therefore, the outside cleaning is necessary. Then second is inside cleaning. Then only it is possible that the Master or God will send His things to decorate your house. Even He sends whatever He enjoys most. Whatever He wants to eat, how He wants to sit there, He sends all those couches and coaches and these hubble bubbles, said a pipe, smoking pipe. All these things He will send. God will not send those things, of course, He does not need them, but He will send these qualities to be manifested in and through this person of the devotee. Because the devotee has purified himself or herself. And then the God's manifestation happens. So this is the meaning of this wonderful instance here, story of the master visiting the servant's house. Then a devotee asked a question. Sir, should one first practice discernment to attain self-control? Well, there are a few questions. After this, the devotees asked, and I would prefer to stop here today. We have some 7-8 minutes left. I would rather inform you about the progress of our activities here. Many of you are curious to know what is happening at this moment here in the new ashrama. As you know, due to several prevailing difficult situations, there is shortage of material and also postponement of different programs or different parts of the construction, and illness of the workers, like that, one after another. So though we have achieved the main part of the building construction and we have started living here, practically from 25th of February. So because we have been living here, so the construction companies are also trying to make it livable as quickly as possible. But the main problem is that, of course, as you know, as you can understand, we have been living here 24 hours and constantly we have been working to furnish the whole house. It is a big house, almost 4 stories, and so many things to do. So we are buying things and assembling things, all these things we have been doing. Some volunteers are coming forward and they are visiting us and helping us also. So the work is going on. We are slowly making the inside complete. But the main problem is the outside work. The main approach footpath, though it is done, but until and unless we have fixed the outside fence and the fence gates, we are not able to invite people to come in. Everyone has to come in, and so that is why you can follow the photos given on our website. You can see the front. There is not much improvement about that in front of the house, and works are going on now. The companies are busy erecting the winter garden, which is called sunroom in USA. So that we are building up. So work is going on. It may take again maybe 2-3 weeks more. And then the work, lift work, the elevator, which is being installed finally thanks to the generous contribution of one of our friends and devotees, that we have decided to install an elevator. It has got 4 stops, and so they are working on this for last 2 weeks, but it may take longer time. Still, maybe in June it may be finished, but still many requirements are there, restrictions are there by the government. They have to come and finally certify the use of it. So it may take some time, but the big noise is still going on the whole day. We are living with that. and the outside, all these things, the footpaths and the like, and the front garden, etc. And also the shutters outside all the windows have to come. That may take more than 1 month again. So these things are keeping us busy, and also it is difficult to invite people at this moment, because if someone comes, we have to spend time with that person, and that is not very helpful. And those who are coming to volunteer their services, they are really helping. So we are just running about with all these things, but it is a joy to be part of such a pioneering work in the name of the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. So we feel blessed that we have been given this chance, or got this great opportunity in our life to do his work, and in this way. So I would always extend our thanks and gratitude to all of you who have supported this work in many ways, not only by contributing the donations or money, but also in many ways by your moral support, also even by attending the talks and other things which kept us inspired always. So we were not in a position to do anything in between, but hopefully from July we will be continuing with some more such online and hybrid talks, and some devotees would start coming and living with us also. So you will find all this announcement on our website as it happens, and we are also planning to hold the inauguration of this center, and also the marble statue of Sri Ramakrishna. This marble statue is almost complete. It may come here towards the end of June. So the installation of the statue and the inauguration of the building will be done on 6th and 7th of September. 7th is the Janmashtami. 6th we have been planning to do the Vastu Puja, the consecration of the ground or our property, and 7th we will be installing the image of Sri Ramakrishna in the presence of some monks and devotees. And then we don't know how far it will be possible, but we may conduct a retreat that weekend. That is, Wednesday is 6th September and Thursday 7th September. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Friday, these are all working days, weekdays. So at the end of that week, means 9th and 10th, we may be conducting a retreat here itself. And let us see what way we can manage it. So we want your cooperation and your prayer. Please do not forget to pray for us. And many thanks for attending this reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And we will be meeting again on maybe that is 25th of June. And that time we will be discussing the Gospel and the Yoga Sutras. Thank you very much once again, and I say goodbye to you, and take care of yourself, stay safe and stay healthy. Namaskar. We will end with chanting Om once. Thank you, Namaskar. Once again, we will disconnect. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Maharaj, thank you so much. Heartful.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Bonjour, Adrien. Namaste, namaste.
Merci encore. Thank you again.
Maharaj, Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Pranam Maharaj.
Good to see you, Maharaj. After such a long time.
Thank you.
Pranam Swamiji.
Namaste. Guten Tag, Kerstin.
Maharaj, Pranam.
Bonjour, Marie-Madeleine.
Bonjour, Swamiji.
See you soon.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Pranam Maharaj. Dankeschön.
Namaste, Mataji. Take care. Okay, then we will disconnect now. It is 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Namaste.
I want to come in September.
Very good. Welcome, welcome. Disconnect. No?
Who is that?